In November of last year, we packed up our lives in Southern California and set off for new adventures in the Blue Ridge Mountains. We also had to move all of our animals across the country, and we did so very creatively in our passenger van. And our cat, 2 dogs, 2 rabbits, and 7 chickens somehow fit inside. We were so excited for the opportunity to move from a 1/4 acre to 27.5 acres of beautiful open space. The kids loved just running around and being outside. I couldn't help myself but think of all the possibilities and what we could do here. We have 3 main portions of our property: a few acres of wooded forest connected to a long pasture. We also have another pastured area that has a stream running through it on the opposite side. And the main chunk where our house, including the old original house of the property, are located. For all of the improvements that we've done so far, it really focuses on the top 2 to 3 acres that are on the top of the hill by our house. So in the first year, we planted 10 fruit trees. We cleared about 600 feet of brambles along our property line. We installed a zip line and 3 different play areas for our kids. We made a berry patch with strawberries, blackberries, blueberries, and mulberries. We developed a flower garden and vegetable garden. We made a pig yard where we raised our pigs. We planted 100 Thuja green giant trees as a privacy screen. We built a goat yard. I built a bunny yard. And we designated space to rotate our chickens around a pasture up at the top of the hill. Suffice it to say, we did a lot. I planned too much, but I am really happy what we've been able to accomplish in the first year. So I have a collage of some pictures that show what we've done over the last year that I wanted to share and give you an insight of what we've done so far, and it might give you a better idea of where we plan to go in the near future. The very first improvement to our homestead was getting our new chicken coop, and I had been dreaming of this for quite a while. So this 5 by 16 foot chicken coop was one of my dreams. And at that time, my chickens were very happy because when we first moved in, I was determined to let my chickens be free ranging, mostly because I just love watching them so much. But then they would just sit on the back porch, which would be fine, except they pooped all over our back porch, and I didn't want to walk through that every single day. So we quickly bought fencing from Premier One, set it up, and then they were in a chicken yard. It also didn't take me long to get 20 more chicks, because who can have just 7 chickens? Then we started to get some fun things for the kids, starting with a go-kart, which everybody loves to ride, including myself. And we put up our swing set that we had at our old house, and Matt built a zip line for the kids. The next very big purchase for the homestead was Matt's tractor. We use that tractor at least 3 times a week, and every single time we think of how much time it saved us from having to do the work by hand. Over the next month, we took some time to settle in and unpack, and our dogs, Tucker and Moose, settled in as well. We got them an extra large insulated dog house, and we even added a heater inside, so they were nice and warm and cozy in there. And the last project that we got done before the snow came was planting 10 of our trees. When the snow finally did come, we were in love. We didn't get snow like this at our house in California, and so our kids loved waking up to see it and play outside. I was nervous about how our chickens would do, but they did surprisingly well. They really didn't want to go out on the snow, but if I laid down a bunch of straw or hay on the ground, they were more than happy to come out of the coop and get some exercise.
Hi, Belle. Hi, pretty girl. Hi, Belle. Go chicken.
So as January and February passed, we spent our time unloading the multitudes of boxes and trying to get a hold of organizing our house. And we also spent quite a bit of time sledding. We have an amazing hill right behind our house that leads off our back porch. And we could set up the sled right outside and go all the way down.
You don't want to tow her up?
She didn't want to.
Oh.
She wanted to walk.
Oh yeah, walk like that?
Yep.
That's some good walking.
By the end of February, we realized that all of the plants that had died back over the winter were going to start leafing out soon. And that mostly meant all of the weeds and brambles that were around the house and on our property lines. So we got to work clearing out as much as we could. I spent weeks and weeks clearing out brambles that were about 10 to 15 feet deep along all of our property lines. It was a lot of work. By March, we started preparing for new additions, the first of which was a bunny that my son got for his birthday. His name is Benjamin, and he is adorable. Next, we knew that we were going to get pigs by the end of the month, so I created their pig yard. I didn't know what I was doing, but I went to YouTube University and figured out the best way to build a pig yard, and so I got it done. And on March 19th, we brought our 3 little piggies home. And we loved them so much. They were so cute. We loved watching them root around and play. The end of March was the hardest for us because we were just waiting for spring. Here, it's still winter at the end of March, and so we were patiently waiting for spring to come. By the beginning of March, I was ready to have green back in my life, and so I started seeds inside. I grew broccoli and snap peas and a bunch of flowers that I put in our southern-facing windows, and I was excited to see them sprout over a few weeks. During that time, we had some warm days where I got to start planning out how I would prepare our berry patch and vegetable garden. And at the time, unfortunately, I did not know that simply using a tarp or covering with heavy mulch would kill off the grass adequately, and we didn't have to go through the labor-intensive process that we did. We used the bucket of the tractor to scrape the grass off, and it worked, and we didn't really have much weeds come through, which is good, but it took so much time and it was hard work. So now this year we are using the tarp method to save our backs and our time. In the beginning of April, we also had enough of having our internet line above ground across our pasture, and we couldn't wait for the internet company anymore to come and bury it for us. So we dug a 500-foot trench and buried it ourselves. Also, at that time, my dad and brother came to visit, and my dad helped Matt build the fence for our goat yard. It took 2.5 days, and then it was done. Mid-April brought an unexpected snowstorm, and Matt was not for it. He was over winter. I thought it was fun, but he did not. Do you like the snow, Matt?
Nope.
You don't?
Nope.
That's really thick snow, huh?
Yep. Dumb day.
Thankfully, that was our last winter storm, and by mid-April, we were able to kick it into high gear to get our berry patch prepared and our vegetable garden ready to plant. We do have clay soil in our area, so I thought it would be a great idea, and it is, to hill rows for the vegetable garden so that there would be more soil to drain down. And I think that did work. Again, it was just a ton of work. And by that time, wildflowers just started popping up everywhere. Even in our pastures, we had violet and buttercups and clover, and alongside all the roads were different wildflowers. Different ones would pop up every few weeks, all throughout summer. So even though I didn't have any flowers that I planted, I really enjoyed picking the wildflowers. In mid-April, I also got really tired of having the bunnies escape from their little puppy gate fence that I made them in the chicken yard, and I decided to make them a permanent bunny yard. I got 4-foot high hardware cloth fencing, and I dug a 14-inch trench along the perimeter of their yard so that I could dig the fencing underneath ground so they couldn't escape. Again, it was a lot of work, but I think it was worth it. They have really enjoyed having all that space, and now they burrow safely within the yard and they have not gotten out. They only get out if we leave the gate open, which we're able to get them back at least. There's really no rest for the wicked because immediately after that, we got our 100 Thuja green giant trees in the mail that I had bought a couple months beforehand, and we needed to get them in the ground. Thankfully, we were prepared with a post hole digger and an auger that was the correct diameter for planting the trees. So Matt made quick work of digging the holes for all 100 trees, and then we just had to put fertilizer down and plant them in each hole, and we were able to get that done over the weekend. Matt did his first hay cutting in the end of April, and our property hadn't been fertilized this year, so he just cut and dropped all of the hay on the fields and hopefully added more nutrients back to the soil. By this time, the weather was really warming up, and the chickens were so happy. We got a few new chicks for my daughter's birthday, and thankfully good old Bruda was broody yet again, and we were able to give them to her to raise, and it worked out really well. We also started getting tons and tons of eggs, and we were getting eggs from our Easter eggers, so we had a lot of fun with our different colored eggs. Our last frost date is May 15th in our area, and so May was just such a busy month. I took bricks from a brick pile that had been left by the previous owners, and I designed my flower garden, laying out the bricks into different flower beds. Also, I transplanted all of my seed starts, and everything started growing, and it was really beautiful. I also got my frost tender seeds planted, as well as about 250 strawberry plants, 20 raspberry plants, 10 blackberry plants, and 4 blueberry plants. In the beginning of June, I was so happy to see my David Austin roses blooming. I had been waiting months for those. Also, in the beginning of June, we had quite a big surprise, or rather 5 very small surprises, when we had a litter of rabbits. Unfortunately, we did not get Benjamin neutered fast enough, and so we had this surprise on our hands. A very cute surprise, though. In June, we were so excited to see the fireflies start coming out. I experienced them when I was a kid, but in Southern California, we didn't have any, so I was just so excited for my kids to be able to run around and catch them the way that I did. The end of spring and the beginning of summer was a really beautiful and happy time, but then by the middle of June, we experienced a really big loss. Our 14-year-old beagle Tucker always acted like a puppy, and we always joked that he would never die, that he would eat his way through life, and if he ever stopped eating, we would know it was time. So one day, as his energy declined and he did stop eating, we brought him to the vet, and within a few visits, we found out that he was dying of kidney failure. When we got back from our vacation in July, we had to prepare for the incoming of a new addition. We were getting our goats, and so we had to make the final preparations to the goat yard. And on July 17th, we welcomed Daisy, Buttercup, and Clover to the farm. They were very skittish when they first got here, and it took about a week and a half of training them to eat out of our hands. But once they figured out that we had sweet feed for them, they would run, and even the kids could start feeding them. Just a few days later, we had another huge addition, or rather very small addition to the farm. We got our lab puppy Lucy, and she's just the cutest, sweetest, most playful little puppy. Even Moose liked her, although he never really played very well. He tolerated her until he just gave up and would go in his house. We would have her leave him alone. But then, just a couple weeks after we got Lucy, we noticed that Moose started to lose some energy, and he had a little bit of red in his left eye. After about a month of vet visits trying to treat this now growing growth in his eye, we found out that he had lymphoma, and we were losing him as well. And by the beginning of August, we lost Moose. The rest of summer brought beautiful flowers and harvests and berry picking and butterflies and just beautiful weather. Even though it doesn't get too hot here up in the mountains, we did have a few weeks where it was pretty toasty, and we spent a lot of time in our above ground pool and on the slip and slide. And then I made another crazy leap, and I decided that we should get some meat chickens to raise our own chicken for the year. And 40 little balls of fluff arrived in the mail, and we began to take care of them and raise them out. Then in September, even though that's usually the hottest month in California, the weather did start to cool down here in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and I got our last harvests, some peppers that I made about 15 jars of salsa for Matt. The beginning of fall brought beautiful, cool weather that we all enjoyed. Then in the end of September, it was time to bring our pigs to market. We had them for 6 months, and it was time for them to be processed. It was pretty hard on me. I was kind of a nervous wreck taking them to the processor, even though I knew all this time that this was their purpose. It was still hard because I loved them. They were sweet boys, and I knew that I would miss them, and I have. But I am thankful that we have that meat that will feed our family for the next year. And the middle of October brought the height of fall color. Fall is absolutely my favorite season, and it just doesn't get any better than this. I can't believe I can look out my window and see this every day. So it's just made me so happy. In summer, I did get to plant a few flowers for a fall flower garden, and I loved making bouquets out of my sunflowers and calendula and marigolds, and it was just so beautiful outside. I couldn't stay inside because I just wanted to be outside all the time. At the end of October, the fateful day came where we had to process our chickens. We did it ourselves, and I had never done anything like that before, and it was very difficult to do that, and it was emotional and stressful, but we got it done, and by the end of the weekend, we had 25 chickens processed in the freezer. Since then, I have just been preparing for winter, raking leaves and collecting them to start compost and mulch piles. and getting our animals ready for the winter, bringing them closer to the house so that they could have power for their de-icers to keep their water from freezing. It's still so beautiful here every day, and I'm just so thankful every day I get to be outside and work on our property. Even just making this video, it kind of floors me to see how much we were able to get done in just a year. This has always been my dream, and so I am so thankful to have this opportunity to raise animals, grow our own fruits and vegetables, raise our own meat, and just enjoy the area that we live in, this beautiful place. I can't wait for all of the changes that we will make next year, expanding our vegetable garden, planting new plants, and maybe even getting a few new animals. I can't wait to see what the next year brings, and I'm so glad that you're on the ride with me. Thank you so much for watching Little Lady Homestead, and I'll see you in my next video.